Are you a mom who loves fun, momming, and protecting your family? If you want to meet some of the most amazing people from all over the gun world and beyond, you are in the right place. Tune in for encouragement and sometimes just courage for moms and women just like you who are curious about shooting but are intimidated or just don't know where to start. Hey, all you tough mothers out there. I want to introduce you to somebody super special. This is Amanda St. Germaine. She is the genius behind Bulletproof Blondie. And she is actually also semi-new to shooting, but a little bit beyond me. And she's done something super cool. She has combined her passion of photography with shooting to encourage other women to get into shooting. So, kind of like a kindred spirit. And I really wanted to introduce you guys to her. Amanda, just kind of explain to me, like, how did you get into shooting and like what inspired you to do that?
So I come from a really small town from northern Michigan, and a couple of years ago I moved to a much bigger city, and that actually is what started my interest in guns because I'm very independent. I live alone, I work alone, I do everything mostly alone. I walk my dog alone, and so when I moved to a bigger city, I was like, okay, I'm a small person. Should probably be a little bit smarter about this. So that's when I started my interest in guns. And then COVID last year hit, and my wedding photography, which I was doing for 10 years, I built a whole business around it, completely just crashed. And I lost all of my weddings. Like, I had 6 weddings. They were all from out of the country. So
Oh, no.
I lost all of them. So I was kind of sticking to product photography and just kind of what I could pick up at the time. And that's when I really started realizing I could combine shooting guns and shooting photography and just kind of put myself out there, because there's not very many girls like us that are just kind of new to it and interested for very practical reasons, but are willing to get into it because it seems like such a hard kind of community to break into. So I'm kind of trying to wedge the gap between that and make it easier.
Yeah. And I love that because that same thing, like I got into shooting because I needed like some stress relief, like big time.
Yeah.
And and two, it's really useful. And then when I pulled that trigger the first time, I was like, this is it. This is what I need. Like, it's cathartic. Like, it's like you're expending this energy and you have to focus, and like all those like 100 things that are going on in your mind at all times kind of like zens down into one thing, and it's really peaceful almost. And it seemed a little daunting at first, but I'm not easily intimidated. So I was like, I'm just going to go do it. I don't care.
Good.
And I found, and I don't know if you had the same experience, that like when I walked in, super nervous, walked up to the counter, was like, oh my gosh, they're going to be like, okay, little lady, like, and I have to kind of break through that. But they were like, oh my gosh, you're into guns? I'm into guns. Let me tell you everything about guns. And they were so excited and so welcoming. And that was just like the biggest hurdle that I overcame, was just like getting over that fear. How about you? Like, what was your experience?
So another thing that I went to a lot when I first started getting into guns was gun shows. And there's 2 types of people at gun shows. There are the ones that just want to teach you everything about guns, that, very much like us, that just want to share everything that they know. And then there are the type that are kind of the salt of the earth, not really interested in teaching you anything. They know everything types. And I kind of had to learn how to work with both of them. And that was a really interesting thing to kind of break into. And that was kind of where I'm like, wow, people could really be turned away from some of these people, but really, like, we're also dealing with a very serious side when we deal with guns. So you have to respect those people as well. And you also have to understand where they're coming from. I mean, guns aren't something to mess around with. And, some of these guns are, used in war. Some of these people are war heroes and things like that. And so I appreciate both sides of the firearm community. I appreciate the people who are very outgoing, who are willing to teach you how to hold a gun and the safety behind it. But I also appreciate and respect what's behind it as well, and the people who are a little bit more reserved. And I don't take it personally anymore like I used to. And that's another thing that I try to put out there. It's just like, there is a good level of respect and just discipline that we have a responsibility of having when we pick up a gun. And so, and that's another thing that, especially somebody that's new to the whole realm of things, is just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to, offend anybody. But at the same time, once you know your place and there's just a level of respect, like anybody's willing to accept you in the 2A community, which I love. So
Yeah.
that was a big thing that I noticed when I first got into it, especially going to the gun shows.
Yeah, I think
So.
everybody's kind of got their story, their beliefs, like where they're coming from. And I think that works in any field. Before this, my husband and I owned a car dealership. And so I found myself at car auctions in the crowd with the guys, like, basically bidding on vehicles. And they kind of look at me like, what are you doing here? Like, are you lost? But the vast majority of them were extremely welcoming and extremely sweet. And it wasn't anything personal. It was just like a paradigm shift for them. They're not used to women being in that field because it's typically male dominated. And I think that's the same thing with the gun community. It's not anything where they're like, of course there are some people who are, sexist or misogynist or whatever. Like, obviously there's some people that have those problems, but the vast majority of them are just like, I don't know why you're here and I haven't seen it before. I have no experience. So I'm going to be kind of a little reserved on that. But then once you like explain to them that you're just genuinely interested in protecting yourself and firearms, and you're not like going to go and shoot somebody else by accident, they're extremely warm and welcoming. They just
exactly. Yeah. I've never met anybody who once they realize that I'm taking the whole thing seriously and respectfully, I've never ever, and I've met a lot of 2A people, I've never met somebody who is going to turn me away or give me the cold shoulder, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, I agree. And it's fun because it's like you meet people everywhere, like just everywhere. Like, I live in 2 different cities in Arizona, like half the time. And anywhere I go, if you just somehow like guns come up in the conversation, it's like 60 to 70% of the time, they're like, you like guns? Let me tell you about all the guns I have and all this experience. And then my husband's like sitting there rolling his eyes because he's like, oh, here we go. She's gone for like 2 hours. Which is fun. It's like a whole like secret, but not secret community. And I kind of find that like is another added benefit to shooting, which is kind of cool. Like you get to act like this camaraderie with other people and you're always learning and growing. And I found that that's been really, really fun.
They are very open once they realize that you like guns, or, it is like a secret community in a way, like you say. I'll say this really quick, but I thought it was funny on my flight back from Las Vegas that I was just in a week ago. I sat next to a gentleman and we didn't speak the entire plane ride. It was like a 2-hour plane ride. And then at the end, I'm pulling up all of the shooting videos that I had, which by the way, I'm afraid to pull up on the plane because like, I don't want people to think that I'm like insane or anything. So I wait until the end, I get landed and I'm finally like kind of briefing over my shooting videos. And the guy turns to me, he's like, wait, you like shooting? And I'm just like, yeah, I like shooting. I'm a shooter. And he's just like, I'm the owner of Michigan Gun Works. And he just happened to be sitting next to me the whole plane ride. And he's just like, man, I wish we would have talked this whole time. And I'm just like, I know, me too. And so we actually talked the entire way out, getting our luggage and everything because of that just simple connection, which I think is so fun. I love it.
It's so fun. Yeah. It's great. Like when you meet new people and sometimes you meet people that are more colorful and some people that are just more like low key, just depends on like their personality. For example, when we first moved to our house kind of like up north, it's a little more 2A friendly up there, or at least openly 2A friendly. And the day that we moved in, my neighbor, I didn't know at the time, but he was my neighbor, like rode up our driveway on like his Harley with like an open carry on the side. And I was like, this is really weird. And invited us over to dinner with like the whole neighborhood to meet everybody. So they were very sweet. And somehow guns came up in the conversation. And they were all like, oh, thank God you're into guns. Because your house is on the top of the hill and it has the tactical advantage. So if anything ever happened, we were going to go up to your house and you're either with us or in the closet. And I was like, I think you guys are somewhat serious. But that's funny, but it's true. Like they're just really passionate about it. And it's really fun to meet. And we've gone shooting together and it's just kind of like a cool.
That is too cool. It's very cool that you have a tactical advantage in your house too.
Right. Yeah. It's like, you can see like the whole city from it. It's got like 360-degree views. So they're like, yeah, we'll be up on like the roof. And so they've got a whole plan. I'm like,
good for them. Yeah. Good for them.
Yeah. The plan was to call the cops, but you guys have your own one. That's fine.
I feel that.
So, okay. So when you got in, so do you have any background? Like, do you have like military people in your family? Like who took you shooting the first time? Or were you just like, I'm going to go in and that's it?
Me, myself, and I. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because I come from a conservative household. But my dad, he never grew up around guns. He wasn't military. And so he always stuck to, if he had a gun in the household, if he had a gun in the household, he thought it was more of a threat to him because he didn't know how to use it. And so he always thought that if he had one, that it was just going to get turned against him. So he was against it my entire life. I turned 18. I moved out of the house, and that's when I started getting into shooting. That's when I moved to a bigger city. And my dad caught wind that I was actually starting to shoot. And I was sending my mom videos and things like that. My dad didn't want to see them. And he actually came out with a threat saying, you are not allowed on my property if you have a firearm. Because he's thinking, you know, I'm a threat. And I think at first when he heard that I was shooting, he didn't think I was doing it the right way. So I think that was part of what he was thinking. But 5 years later, and a lot of persistence, and my father now owns 5 firearms.
Nice. So you've been working on him. Yeah. That's great.
So it worked out. I kind of just, you know, I was 18 at the time. So I'm like, Dad, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I kind of just proved to them through, you know, consistent training. And once again, the respect behind something that's a weapon. And slowly but surely, like, my dad started peeking over at my training videos a little bit more. He was seeing me shoot full auto. He's like, oh, that's kind of cool. And so slowly but surely, I got not only my dad into it, but I took my very first CPL class with my grandfather, who is 89. I brought him along, or he brought me along, which I thought was awesome.
And what's the CPL class? Because I'm not, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Certified Pistol License. Okay. So CWW. Yeah, I know people change it, but yeah. So I did my CPL class with my grandfather. His wife then caught wind of that, which is my grandmother, picked up her gun. And then my mom picked up a gun. So my whole family now has a firearm in the last 5 years because I started shooting, which I think is also really cool.
That is awesome. So do you guys shoot together when you get back together and like?
We do. Yeah. We go up north.
So fun.
We have a camp. So we have some range set up and things like that way up north. And so it's a good time. I'm actually just starting this summer to teach my mom how to shoot a pistol. So she's really excited about that. So we just need to get more range time and more ammo.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thanks.
I think my chances of getting my mother on board is pretty much like somewhere between never and definitely not. So
yeah, you would be surprised though. I mean, like you said, once you pull that trigger, some people, it just kind of clicks. Like, I never thought in a million years that my 75-year-old grandmother would be at the range, but yet she goes more than me sometimes, which is insane. That's and they awesome. Take a revolver.
Revolvers, you know, it's something about like that generation and revolvers. They're just like, I just trust it more. Like, yes, I get it. Like, you got it, you know, the hammers, like the safety and all that. And like, totally get it. But yeah, it's kind of so a cool, cute. Like, you can kind of see it, you know, like, typically like older people, like, I like Buicks and I like Cadillacs. And then like, you know, it's like, they just stick to what they know. They've had the same hairstyle since they were 42. Yes. You know, but like, that's once you hit that age range, like, that's it. You don't change.
Hey, ever. I don't blame them. I'm getting there. So
yeah, I'm like, okay, so I'm, you know, almost, I'm pretty much 40. So, you know, I just want to make sure that I'm not, you know, I can deal with this for the rest of my life. This is fine. I don't have a mullet. I don't have anything like crazy. I don't have like the crimped hair that I'm going to have forever. So I feel like I could like pull this off until, you know, my golden years. So
I like it. Yeah. Stick with it.
So, okay. So what's your plan? Like, so I know, like, I've seen you on like Instagram and kind of like all your videos and everything like that. Like, are you planning on doing like more competitions or training, or like kind of what's your goals? Like, what's the future for Bulletproof Blondie?
So training is my number one. I actually it took me a little hurdle to get over actually posting some of my beginning training videos because I know I'm going to get crap for them, but at the same time, it's like everybody starts somewhere. I'm getting professional training and it's a little slow. It's a little basic, but I'm just starting to kind of put that out there. So once again, more people can see that, you know, you don't have to be a tactical badass to go out and shoot a gun. And so basically my biggest goal right now is just training, learning as much as I can. It's a language that I need to learn still. I mean, I have maybe 10% of it down, if that. I don't even know. So I know that's going to be probably the biggest thing that I'll be focusing on for the next couple of years. But on top of that, I really since this thing has taken off, I have been interested in kind of branding Bulletproof Blondie a little bit more in the sense of empowering girls like myself to pick up guns and to be interested in personal protection and carrying. And so somehow, some way, I'm going to kind of try to start a new chapter with that, maybe meet more people in that realm. We'll see. As far as competitions, though, I'm probably going to stay back because I'm a very competitive person. And I know that if I start competitions, there's no stopping. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more training, and I'm going to give myself a little bit more, a couple of years. And I will probably end up at that point. But for now, it's just going to be kind of just educating the public and being kind of like a voice for people like myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. And I love seeing other women encouraging other women, because like you can hear it from,
there's not enough of it.
Right. And there's some amazing trainers. Like, I have 2 trainers that are a husband and wife team, and they're amazing. And I take both of their inputs, equally. But I think for a lot of women, they prefer hearing it not just from women, but like, and professional training women, but like other women that are like, hey, I'm just a little bit above you. I'm not like this super badass shooter that's been doing it for 20 years, that knows everything. And then sometimes they kind of forget, like, the basics are a little bit intimidating. So having that intermediary and having people saying, hey, I'm right, I'm just like you, you, I don't have any special training or anything, is huge. Because it's you could see somebody and go, oh, I can put myself in Amanda's shoes, and I can absolutely do that. And I think that that's amazing. So I just wanted to share you with the world. And yeah, because women need to lift each other up and kind of encourage one another. I feel like there's not a whole lot of that in this world.
I agree. I think what you are doing is absolutely awesome. And there's, like I said, we need more people like you and me. So this is perfect. This is a good match.
Yeah. So ladies out there, like, come on and like follow us, check it out, ask us questions. You can find Amanda on Instagram at I can't even talk anymore. Bulletproof Blondie. Do you have a website as well?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Just
I'm still forming.
It's in the works. I will be holding my breath starting right now. Okay. Maybe like a little bit longer than I can hold my breath, but I'm sure it will be coming.
Okay, quick.
Is there anything else that you want to share with anyone out there that may be interested in shooting or just starting out shooting? I try to think back of like when I first started, like what would I want to hear, or, like what kind of encouragement would you want to give them?
So I guess the way that I would look at starting shooting, if you are thinking about starting, if you've looked into it, if you've looked into classes, the beginning of shooting is a lot like going to the gym for the first time, where you can think about it all you want and you can prepare, you can have the right lifting stuff, you can have all the gear, but you just gotta go. And that is my biggest thing. Like, if you step in there and you go into a gun store or you go into a class, you don't need anything. You don't need any knowledge. And the people that are there to help you and teach you are going to do just that. And I'm 100% confident. I've pushed so many people. I've bought classes for my girlfriends and just said, just go. Just show up there. You don't have to bring anything. Just listen. And you will get into it, I promise.
Yeah, it is a blast. Pun intended. It is a lot of fun. And there's some really cool people. And it seems super scary, but once you get the hang of it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is great. And there's a huge sense of empowerment, right? Like overcoming those fears, mastering a skill that's worthy of your focus and your respect, and something that you can really do to like protect yourself and protect your family and build relationships with new people that you never even thought was possible. Like it's really cool. And I just love it. So thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to follow Amanda, I highly recommend it. It's Bulletproof Blondie on Instagram. I'm going to put a link in her show notes page. She is a lovely lady, and I'm sure we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Amanda, thank you so much for your time. Ladies, you heard her. Get out there, get into the gym, get into the range, rent a gun, talk to people, be open, and do not be afraid. Great job. You made it to the end. You are one tough mother. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to support the work that we do and keep the good lovin' coming, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're listening. What's that? You're one of those crazy mother followers that wants more of this nonsense? You got it. Subscribe to the Moms Love Guns YouTube channel, follow us at Moms Love Guns on Instagram, and join our free private Facebook group to connect with other women just like you in an encouraging and non-judgmental community. If you want to share even more love, share your new favorite community with a friend or all of your friends, maybe even a few enemies, just to be safe. Get out there, overcome your fears, be not afraid. You have got this.